What's good, guys? It's TSG. In today's video, we're going to be talking to one of the nominees for the Ethlizards Council. With me today, I have KakashiSama, or you might know him as Lucius, as one of the core contributors for Illuvium. How's it going, my man?
Hey, good to be here. Thanks. Nice to have on your channel again.
It hasn't been too far, right? It's been like a week and I've got the pleasure of having you on again. All right, man. Yo, let's get straight into it because obviously we've chatted before we started the recording. But let's get straight into it. And the first question I want to ask you is, when we made that transition from the original idea of what Ethlizards DAO was going to be to the potential GameFi DAO that we're going to GameFi investment DAO that we're now transitioning into, there was a structure proposed for a council. And this included a VC role, a GameFi role, a DeFi role, and 2 whale roles. If we did follow this structure, where do you think you would sit in that proposed structure there?
So I feel like I want to bring a lot of different pieces of that to the table, and it will take a bit of explanation how. And actually, I'm a much better writer than I am a public speaker, so I actually have written out my answers to look through. And my answer to this question is like half of my interview pitch, but it's a point of points that I don't think many people have been speaking on so much yet, right? So a little bit of history, I've been a member of the Ethlizard since the V2, before the V2 mint. I've been, before we had this GameFi DAO thing, and the community is already great, and it's just nice to be here. We have really strong and smart people. So I also love that our council election is open and that we have a real chance to invite some of these smart, strong people to really serve the DAO. So I feel really connected to the lifeblood of Ethlizards, whether I'm on the council or not. Like, I really love this project, and I'm here for the long run. But I was speaking to Dupree and Kieran about this initial proposal, right, for the VC, GameFi, DeFi, whale roles, right? And basically Dupree's response was the structure we presented in the LIP was just an ideal scenario in their eyes, but not a strict guideline for that to be met. Right, so it's an idea, it's where we want to get to, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's where we need to start. And I actually feel like I'm bringing a lot of different things to the table than the other candidates, because I want to be able to bring in a bit of all of those roles, but not just focused on one or the other. And the way that I want to even start out this conversation about it is that there's one point in this bigger discussion that we haven't been addressing, and I intentionally waited to bring this up, is that we have not been talking at all about developing the council systems. I'm not hearing so much the other candidates speak so much on this, but to me this is like a really critical point that we really need to look at and address, especially in this first epoch or two. Because as we're developing it, I think that everyone can agree, like the long-term goal, if we look at a DAO first perspective, is that we all want this to be the best GameFi investment DAO, like 2 to 5 years from now. Like that is the goal. I think 100%, all candidates, all community members, like we can just agree on that. This is a really good starting place, right? And so working backwards from that is, for me, where this strategy really begins, right? And so what that looks like to me in these first few epochs is definitely still voting in a few people with VC experience, whales, whatever this kind of financial background. And we're still, of course, everyone in the council is looked to help grow the investments, grow the vaults, to have this as a very functional working piece. Totally always important no matter what. But I really think in this first epoch or two that it's really important that we should also vote in 1 to 2 more diverse members to the council who are really focused more on developing the council, developing systems and structures around that, so that we have a bit of this ongoing as we're going through this. So, personally, so that's where my pitch comes in on like the role I really want to provide. Part of it is on this development side. Like at Illuvium, I'm brought in as a bit of a specialist role to take on a new challenge or new products, new ideas, and to get them up to a high level, right? And so if we're taking a moment to look at what the council development needs to look like, we'll just go through a few of these key points quick. This is one, we need to have investment guidelines. We need to develop an investment strategy for long-term sustainability. We might need to put into place investment caps so that the first council or two can't blow the entire vault. right? Just these considerations that people are having as far as like, people want to put their investment in so that they're making sure to get a return. We should totally address that as a council and put reasonable regulations on some of this. So procedures, documentation, expectation, and accountability of council members. This has been a recent conversation in Illuvium governance as well. Process for council member removal in case someone's not performing or isn't available. Deal flow processes, risk assessment protocols, like reporting and communications to the community. People want to be up to date with as much as they can with stuff not locked behind NDAs. Payout mechanisms for lizards and council members. Even as approving the Ethlizard team new hires, because the council is going to be handling expenditures of the vault, these things still need to be approved, right? So then we also have this group cohesion and updates or difficulties that can come sometimes when you're developing a council. Maybe 5 of these VC investors would have different ideas on how to do it. So I think it's good to have a few really financially focused, and then at least 1 or 2 people focused on this kind of back end.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Yeah, man. I was actually going to ask you what were some of these council systems that you're talking about, but you already addressed that. So, yeah, cool. So I think we can, unless there was something else.
Yeah, so I just have a little more to add on that. I mean, I will be working with Kieran to help develop Illuvium's governance 2.0. And so I do think that another good point is that we can look at, even though the Ethlizard Council is strictly investment based, it's not governance at all, right? But we can pull some common themes on how a council is ran, how meetings and agendas go, and just pulling in some of these things from some of these other projects, right? Like I'll be working with Kieran a lot, so it's also going to be very easy to kind of, as he's also going to be one of the ones bringing in a lot of the deals, to be able to have a lot of direct conversations. So in case he's not as present, I can still bring some of this stuff over to council. So while I'm not a GameFi founder, this is some of the ways I start to think I can contribute to these different roles is by still having these connections, whether it's with Kieran or some of the guys in Polymos or all of these different channels that we have access to with a very large and talented community that we do have.
No, absolutely. Sorry. All right, so let's move on to the next question then. And I'm actually interested to hear what you've thought of for this. What are the types of things that you'd be looking at in a project that would make you want to invest? Like what are the key factors, the main points that you'd say, all right, these are the things I'm looking for. Maybe these are some red flags. What are those things for you where you'd want to pull the trigger and things that you'd kind of just want to stay away from completely?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this falls in the area, like this is for sure a bit more generic answers, but we need to have knowledgeable and experienced founders, a diverse docs team, history of success, the ability to achieve a reasonable roadmap, right? What are their financials? What are the tokenomics? Do they have things locked for, a year, 2 years to where they're really committed to the project or even longer than that? What's their documentation and scalability look like? And then as you say, like also what's the risk? We need to be able to have also as a council in general, a really good risk assessment to say, is this going to be worth it or not? So in general, I would be looking at as an overall goal to have a bit of a balanced portfolio. I think that the Ethlizards trends a bit more towards the GameFi side of things, but I do think that occasional good DeFi investments could come up and things that could be considered. Majority in GameFi, and looking at mostly low to medium risk things, like no high risk. We have a bunch of funds in the vault right now that we want to grow those, with low to mid risk things, not taking big chances early on, right?
No, absolutely. And because they are, because I that was one of the earlier questions, and I've kind of stuck it out because I don't want to change it midway. And you are right, it does get a lot of generic answers. So the question I generally follow it up with is, because they are pretty generic answers, for you personally, like if you had to prioritize maybe, let's say, the top 3 of those generic answers, what would be priority number 1? Would that be the founder? Would that be the valuation, the tokenomics? Like in those out of those generic answers, if you had to prioritize the top 3 things from most important, what would those 3 things be? I feel like that's a better way to maybe get your own personality and perspectives and
Yeah.
not kind of focusing on the generic stuff.
I hear that, and with our end goal also being like a regular revenue for Lizard holders, and then also regular revenue re-entering the vault. So again, kind of working backwards from that as we're looking into analyzing a project, we needed to fall within that. So for sure, starting with the founders. I mean, I think you really need to. This is the backbone of any project is going to be the founders.
Yeah.
You know, so for sure, for me, that makes the top. You know, and then also like history of success. Is this their first time doing a thing? Is this their 10th time doing a thing? Like this is massively different. And then also financials can be another important part. Do they even have good financial backing from other well-respected organizations? Or are they really struggling to gain footing because they just don't quite have a complete picture put together yet?
Yeah. All right, fair. All right, so I want to move on to the next question now. It's a bit more of a scenario question where I'm going to give you two scenarios, pretty much on both extremes, and I kind of wanted to get where you stand on those things and get your perspective on those things. So the first one is the scenario is, imagine we've made bad decisions and we now have a limited amount of ETH left to play with. Our capital is kind of shrunk down, and we've only got a little bit of capital left. Little bit is relative, so let's just see how this goes. But how would you like to see that capital deployed? Obviously, you've already said that you're not really for the high risk plays for now. But in a situation like that, would you turn to more high risk to try and double up? Would you double down on the safer options? Is there another option that you've thought of, something like that? How would you go about dealing with that?
To me, I think this is one of the things that even coming in as our vault is totally full, that we really need to already start considering and developing our game plan around, right? Is to one, just develop a really good process to pick a good project. I wouldn't pick a high risk in this case. Again, I would pick a project with solid fundamentals, with expected returns at a reasonable amount of time frame, where we could at least be taking off profits from the table to put back in and holding some to also provide the project with stability. So to me, part of it is really going to be, a lot of this should be looked at in this first epoch or two of developing a solid game plan of what to do when we have a lot of ETH, what to do when we don't, and then also how to move forward and keep these things within balance. So to me, I'm really looking to pick winners in this situation. I'm looking to make a bit more of a. I really want to look at, and we're picking our top few from that point instead of just really spreading ourselves thin with things that could be not so solid projects.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so now and on the flip side now, so let's say that we've made incredible investments, and we are now sitting in a whole heap of ETH, and we have an excess of ETH, and there just aren't enough good opportunities for us to deploy that capital. What would you like to see us do with that excess? And I know there's no such thing as an excess of capital, but for the sake of this scenario, what would you like to see us do with that excess of capital? How would you like to see us use that, and in what way?
Yeah, I mean, isn't this the time when we throw the party on Lizard Island, right? Kieran's putting everyone together. No, I'm just kidding.
This is the island.
Exactly. No, we're still a ways from that yet. No, but I do like this question a lot, actually, because to me, I do see this as a bit more of a scenario that will come up. And I forget which one of your previous interviewers had mentioned this, but this is the time when, okay, well, first let's look. Okay, we're not just looking at GameFi. First off, we're also looking at DeFi. So it will be at least a little while in a really booming crypto Web3 space when we actually run out of good projects to invest in regards to seed or pre-seed. But let's just assume we've reached that point. Then we could look over at things into like Series A investments. Like imagine, okay, you didn't get into the seed or pre-seed of Illuvium, but maybe you're still getting it at a point where you're catching a good project like that at $30 or $50 a token, where it could still be a decent investment opportunity. So you could start kind of moving into things that the return might not be quite as much as if you're looking at seed or pre-seed, but still catching projects a bit earlier on that are looking really solid fundamentals, that are really starting to gain their footing. That would be my next steps to really go into. I know that some people have talked about Bancor and some of these other kind of protocols you could look into. For me, that stuff is really far down the line. Right now, all of the ETH, in my opinion, should be reserved mostly for pre-seed and seed. And eventually, when we run out of those, okay, we can look at some Series A things and move forward from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. All right, man. So moving on to outside of that scenario now. So the question I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts and opinions on the team's decision to allow council members to remain undoxxed if they so wish? Are you for that, against it? Where do you stand on that, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'm for that, and part of it is also because I know the inner workings of how things are actually going to work, and I'll explain that a bit. So for me, it's fine that people are doxxed or undoxxed. I'm doxxed, obviously, but I also respect that if somebody isn't, it doesn't mean they can still be really valuable to the council and to the protocol as a whole. Because for clarity, the way it's going to be working is that the council is, yes, going to be making these decisions, financial decisions about how the expenditures of the vault are spent. But there's still the team and advisors that are actually the ones who are the signatures on the Gnosis safe to actually approve the actual transaction. So there's still a separation. So for me, that totally removes the concern of doxxed or not doxxed in this particular scenario. Right. Eventually, maybe someday there's some regulatory body that says, the council has to be doxxed, but I don't see anything like that happening for some time. So really, at this point, I don't see it as an issue at all.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. So that's all of the hard questions out of the way, man. I've got the two fun questions to end off with. Now, again, absolutely killed it. All right. So the two last questions I have is, one, a lot of the community members want to know how much skin you have in the game. So if you were on the council, they kind of want to know that you obviously aligned with the goals of the Ethlizard DAO in general. And one of the easiest ways to figure that out is by knowing how many Ethlizards you hold. So that is the question. How many Ethlizards do you actually hold?
So I'm not going to go so far as to give you exact number and dox my wallet, but I will tell you I'm a boss lizard.
Okay, boss lizard is more than 10, right?
Yeah, I forget what it goes up to. It's more than 10, I think, is where it starts.
Yeah. Cool. So I mean, we're pretty close. All right, man. And the last one is, what is your favorite? And this is probably the most important question I have to say. What is your favorite Ethlizard trait?
Man, I don't know if there's anything that's going to beat the Counselor Hat Lizard that Rogier just released. Okay, that's a big bias because his art is just incredible. I'll put these special Liz off the table and we'll look at the the V2 Liz. My favorite V2 Liz trait is definitely the Super Laser Eye Liz.
Yeah, man. A lot of people, a couple of people have said that. It's a couple of I've kind of I wasn't too keen on it just because I was like, oh man, the laser eyes are everywhere. It's kind of like, it is what it is, but not enough. That's a fair one. But yes, I do agree. Rogers, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Roger or Roger? But
I think it's
Roger. Yeah, his artwork is
so good.
Like next level. But yeah, all right, man. I want to just say thank you for taking the time to come on. I know you're super busy. I'll just say for everyone, we had to reschedule this multiple times. So I'm glad that we finally made it happen. What's the best way for people to contact you? Is it Twitter? Is it Discord?
Definitely Discord. Yeah, definitely Discord. And thanks again, TSG, for the invitation. Last time we tried to make our interview in the middle of the land sales, I was totally swamped and with all these kind of things. And to me, is a big honor to be here and also to be part of this council. I personally feel like the biggest impact I can make at this moment to the Ethlizards is serving in the council, working with some of the biggest supporters, all of these advisors that we are already aligned with and all of that. I just really want to help pave the way for us to be able to also bring in bigger VCs and big names as we're moving forward. So vote KakashiSama and look forward to seeing you guys around the Ethlizards Discord.
No, awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate you. And again, thank you everyone for watching. If you guys want to watch more of these interviews, I've got a playlist where I've talked to pretty much most, if not all, of the nominees. I do have a couple more coming up as well. So just stay informed with who you want to vote for. And like always, if you like this type of content, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.